Hello all, I'm Wadabra. Welcome back to Adastra. In the last episode, Marco was finishing up his first day on the alien planet, and after Alexios informed him that dinner is served in their master's rooms, he and Alex go their separate ways for the evening. Kato briefly stopped Marco in the hallway, trying to find out where exactly in the galaxy he's from, but Marco successfully plays dumb this time and gave Kato a headache instead. Over dinner, Marco and Amicus get the opportunity to talk with each other again. They discover they both hate math and potentially share an interest in history. Amicus expresses confidence in his ability to win the trials for the throne, if it actually comes down to that. But Marco is less confident, given everything that they went through on the ship, and says as much. Marco then confronts Amicus with all the information Alexios gave him when they were weeding in the gardens, and come to realize that they're both on the same page when it comes to their political ideologies. We also find out that Amicus is quite lonely in the palace, and that he's been looking forward to hanging out with Marco since they parted ways after breakfast. And as quid pro quo for grooming his fur that morning, Amicus brushes Marco's hair. Unlike at breakfast though, Marco does not pop a boner. By the end of the episode, Marco realizes what an open book Amicus actually is, and surprises himself when he realizes that he now trusts the wolf, despite everything, and is now no longer dreading the months ahead of him on Adastra. That's the recap. Please remember to like and share this video for the glory of the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. And as always, content warnings and a link to my Patreon can be found in the description below. Let's get started. The next day, Amicus wakes me up by gently shaking my shoulder. Hey, Marco, wake up. I roll over on my sofa, groggily pulling the blanket up around me as I shiver. Ugh, it's so cold in here. Oh, I can turn up the heat if you'd like. It's just that I tend to sweat a little when it's too warm. Could you just give me a better blanket? Of course. I'm in just my underwear. My Romanesque underwear. Last night, Amicus had shown me, a bit awkwardly, how to tie it on. While it's comfortable, it always feels a little loose, and there's a constant worry that it's just gonna drop off at some point. Anyway, we should get going soon. Alex is probably already waiting for us. I rub the sleep from my eyes, drawing the blanket around myself a bit more tightly. For what? We're going to the island for a picnic. You wanted something to do, didn't you? Oh, yeah. Right. I get up and grab my new robe off the back of the sofa. Don't bother with the shower today since we'll be swimming. Well, I will, anyway. Amicus moves to the bathroom and pulls out a large glass bottle filled with a clear liquid. He pours it into the glass cap and notices me watching. Oh, would you like to try some? I suppose your species cares about dental hygiene, considering your teeth look all right. What is it? A wash that simply cleans the teeth. Keeps the breath from becoming offensively odorous. He holds out the cap, and I take it from him as he just pours the liquid straight into his mouth. I sniff it, and though I expected a minty smell, it's floral instead. Is this all you use to clean your teeth? Amicus swishes the liquid around in his mouth for a while, then spits it into the sink. It removes any surface-level debris, but you should get a deeper cleaning from a drone at least once a week. I can show you that later too, if you'd like. That kinda sounds terrifying. Maybe? Honestly, you're supposed to use this every morning, but I forgot yesterday in all the excitement that we had. I lift the liquid-filled cap up to my mouth and, with just a little hesitation, I pour it in. The taste reminds me of walking into a room that's just been sprayed with air freshener. Not exactly pleasant, but when I spit it into the sink, I notice bits of what I assume to be plaque floating down the drain, and my mouth does feel a lot more fresh. Guess it works. Amicus seems impatient, though, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. Ready, Marco? Yeah, sure. Do you have bathing suits or something? Like clothes for swimming? Amicus steps out of the room and into the main hallway as I follow after him. At the same time, I finish tying on my robe, trying to make sure everything is correctly in place. No, we swim in the nude. But if you'd prefer to have something on, you could use your undergarments. I can't imagine that would be comfortable, but Alex does it. Just as he says the cat's name, I see him standing in the hall, carrying a heavy-looking basket in both arms. Once he sees us, he smiles.
Hello, Amicus. Hello, Marco. It's good to see you again. How are you this morning?
I'm about to respond, but Amicus is already speaking. Good, good. You got all the food, Alex?
Yeah. Though, are you sure it's not against protocol that I took all of this?
Well, it would be if I didn't approve it. Now, let's go. Alex and I follow the excited wolf's swishing tail as we head towards the front archways, an area that I haven't been to before. Ahem. I hear a familiar grunt, and we all stop and turn around. Kato stands there watching us, stoic as always. Where might you three be off to? Hello, Kato. We're going for a swim. A swim. I can't exactly tell what's going on behind that visor, but the tone in his voice doesn't seem all that enthusiastic. Amicus seems to sense it too. Yes? A moment of silence goes by. You know you have combat training today, Amicus. Well, yes, but only for part of the day. We'll be back shortly after noon. Kato's face twitches, and I can sense the disapproval coming off of him in waves. Then he turns his head slightly in my direction. You're taking the pets? I quickly fix my face into a middle-distance stare. Yes, I thought we could all use a little fresh air. Kato goes on staring for a moment, and I start to believe what Amicus said about Kato not having a good mood. Finally, the old wolf turns his attention back to Amicus. Well, I have some of my own duties to take care of this morning. But I expect you to be in the amphitheater by the 11th hour. Do not be late. With that, he turns and stalks off down the hall before disappearing around a marble corner. Amicus lets out a breath. Ugh, thought he was going to cancel our outing altogether. All right, let's go before anyone else tries to stop us. Amicus quickly turns towards the archways again and leads us out into the warm morning air.
You seem very eager, Amicus.
Well, I haven't been swimming for weeks now, and I need a good exercise. As we walk, I notice Alex huffing and puffing, struggling with the basket, so I hold out my hand. Here, do you need help?
Oh, I don't want to inconvenience you.
I reach out and take the handle of the basket, and Alex doesn't resist as I pull it out of his paws. It's heavy, but not impossible to carry. I heft it in both of my hands as we walk down the path towards the lake.
Are you sure it's not too heavy?
I'm fine. Though I think someone else might be able to handle it a bit better than us. Especially since I imagine it's mostly his food. Amicus's ears perk at my pointed statement. Oh, is it heavy? Amicus turns and yanks the basket from me, easily swinging it in one paw. Should have said something. Though I'll have to give it back once we get to the shore. I'll be swimming to the island. I frown. Is it far? Well, of course, you'll be taking the sightseer. What's that? Alex moves up to walk alongside me.
You'll see. It's sort of a hovercraft for sightseeing, as the name implies.
After a few minutes, we reach the shore where there's a small gazebo with various boats underneath it. There's also what sort of looks like a jet ski, and next to that is just a glass box with an open top. This is what Alex and Amicus walk up to, the wolf leaning over to drop the picnic basket inside. Once he does that, he strips off his underwear and tosses it into the glass craft as well. I look away and notice Alex doing the same, his ears down as he blushes furiously. Trying to ignore the wolf, I walk up to the strange little craft, noticing that there's an open space on the side of the box that allows us to get in. The floor is glass as well, and I can see the dirt and vegetation underneath us. Race you to the island! Amicus cheerfully waves at us before running into the lake, the wolf's bushy tail swooshing around over his naked butt.
Ugh, so inappropriate.
Alex shakes his head and turns to a slanted glass panel attached to the side of the craft. He touches it, and several bright characters come to life on the screen. A few seconds later, our little glass craft levitates off the ground and starts to move over the water, albeit at a very slow pace. Wow, what is this thing?
A sightseeing craft, parental tech, so it's very safe and easy to navigate.
I watch as we start to float over the slightly choppy water, Amicus already about 10 meters out in front of us. He's a pretty good swimmer.
We're just slow. That's why he turned this into a race, because he knows we won't beat him, even if we're going at full speed.
Sure enough, Amicus starts to widen the gap. I notice Alex's ears twitching about as he navigates our craft, looking left and right, while avoiding looking at the water altogether. Do you not like swimming?
Oh, I hate large bodies of water. It's a bit stressful coming out here, honestly, but the island is serene, and for the most part it makes the trip worth it.
Ah, felines are kind of like that on my planet too. I cringe inwardly as I almost reveal the name of my planet. It was pretty blatant, but Alex goes on like he didn't even notice.
Well, yes. Similar origins and all. But honestly, I'm a bit surprised that you're doing so well yourself. Or that you even decided to come out here.
That comes off as a little strange to me, but I'm distracted watching Amicus get closer to the island. Maybe only about 50 meters now. I start to get an idea, though. Judging by the distance between us, Amicus, and the island, I feel like I might be able to beat him. I grin, then start stripping off my robe.
What are you doing? We're not at the island yet.
Alex blushes furiously again, looking away. I'm gonna beat him.
What?
I grab onto the edge of the glass barrier and swing my legs over it.
No!
Alex actually tries to lunge at me, his paws just barely missing as I plunge into the lake. I don't have much time to think about why, because I'm instantly surrounded by freezing cold water. I come up, gasping from the shock of it before I spot the direction of the island and start swimming toward it. It's been a while since I really had a chance to swim. I'd always been pretty good at it though, and soon enough I get into the familiar motion of putting one arm ahead of the other while turning my head to take breaths. While this is going on, I can still hear Alex shouting behind me. But then, just as I'm feeling that I'm about to gain on Amicus, I get rammed by something heavy and furry that suddenly starts to pull me into its grasp. At first, I wonder if I've been captured by some kind of Adastran sea monster. Maybe that's why Alex is freaking out? But just as I'm about to resign myself to that fate, Marco, don't worry. I've got you. I stop fighting against the big, furry arms wrapping around me as I feel Amicus kicking his legs under mine, sort of pulling me towards the island that's just a few dozen meters away now. What are you doing? I try to pull away, but Amicus keeps me in a fierce death grip, refusing to loosen up at all.
My gallon!
I look up and see Alexios dumping out the basket full of food into the sightseer before throwing the basket at me.
Use this! It will keep you above water!
It hits me in the face before gently bobbing away in the waves. What the hell is going on? I try to pull away from Amicus one last time, but give up, leaning into his chest with a bewildered expression on my face. He kicks his feet awkwardly under mine before I finally feel our feet drag into the shifting sand under the water. Even then, Amicus doesn't let me go. He keeps his firm grip around my wrist as he pulls me to shore, bringing us onto the little island. Are you all right? Amicus puts his paws onto my shoulders, his wide eyes looking into mine, breathing heavily. Yes. What the hell just happened? I rub my nose where the basket hit me in the face, and that's when Alex's little craft pushes gently into the sand. He hops out, running up to us.
I don't know what happened, Amicus. He just jumped out. I'm sorry I couldn't stop him.
Alex bows deeply, ears flat and trembling. I start to wonder if maybe there's something in the water that I wasn't supposed to come into contact with. I look at my skin, but everything seems fine. I finally look up at Amicus, trying to ignore his dick as it swings around between his legs. Amicus seems to notice at the same time and covers up his crotch with a paw, keeping the other on my shoulder. Can you just explain to me what happened? Amicus frowns at me. Well, you can't swim. You're hopeless in water. It's why I wanted you in the craft. Alex's lips tremble a bit, as if about to cry.
You're not born with natural swimming abilities. Whenever a primate falls into water, they're almost sure to drown. Are you sure you're okay? I'm so sorry.
The way they explain to me how primates work reminds me that they still might not consider me to be on the same intelligence level as them. It's like I don't know my own species' capabilities, that I just jumped in because I'm a stupid barbarian. It irritates me, but both of them look almost traumatized. Especially Amicus. the paw not concealing his crotch is still firmly locked onto my shoulder, as if worried I'm going to go running off into the water again. Guys, I can swim. I mean, yeah, it's not natural for us, but we can learn. I've known how to swim since I was a kid. They still stare back at me, as if not understanding. Really? Well, yeah. Do you think I'd just jump out of the thing to just drown myself? Amicus lets go of my shoulder to cover his dick with both paws now. I don't know. I know you're unhappy here, so I wasn't sure. I laugh. I'm not that unhappy. I'm fine. And you know, I'm not an idiot. I thought you'd know this by now, Amicus. Things go quiet then. Alex looking off to the side with his ears down. Amicus standing awkwardly and covering his crotch with both paws. So, did I ruin our outing? No. I just need to remember that you're not a typical child. Now, let's try to relax and have some fun. It's the whole reason we came out here after all. Alex still looks a bit dejected, looking off towards the sightseer.
I ruined our food. I'm sorry.
Alex bows again. I remember how Alex isn't really supposed to know about my intelligence, or anything about me, really. But if he's bothered by the conversation that just took place, he's not showing it. Amicus shrugs. Stop bowing. It makes me feel strange. The naked wolf ambles over to the craft as he leans over to look at the cluttered mess inside. His tail lifts, and we get a view of his butt again. Alex looks away, blushing, but at this point I think I've given up on trying not to see the various naked parts of this wolf. Being in the nude seems pretty natural for him, even if he tries to hide it from us. I think we can salvage a decent meal out of this. The wine's good. Amicus lifts a large bottle of wine into the air, still not turning around.
I'll sort through it, Amicus. Please, enjoy your swimming exercises in the meantime.
Alex quickly moves to start gathering up the food, head down. Well, all right. And ears up, Alex. We're here to have fun. Alex puts his ears up, but doesn't lift his head to look at us. Oh, right. The wolf grins at me, dipping his muzzle down at his crotch. The cats are just like you when it comes to this sort of thing. Anyway, I'll get in the water so you won't have to keep averting your eyes. You should join me now that we know you can swim, Marco. I start to follow, then look back at the cat. Do you need help, Alex? Alex shakes his head quickly, and I can see that he's still blushing.
Go on and swim, Marco. I'll just be sunbathing anyway.
There isn't much room in the sightseer for two people, and Amicus seems to be waiting for me, so I follow the wolf out toward the water. Intelligent conversation and a swimming partner. I have a pet that can do it all. Amicus shoulders me as we walk along the beach, making me stumble. Hey! I say it warningly, even though I know he's joking. You know, I have to wonder why you'd take me out here if you didn't think I could swim. Everyone enjoys the beach, whether they can swim or not. The sand becomes too hot as I walk along the beach, so I have to jog the last 10 meters or so to the wet sand, sighing as the waves cool my burning feet. Amicus catches up. Too hot? I suppose I should remember that you're a bit more fragile than the other species. Fragile? Well, a bit. I mean, when we fought on the ship, I had to hold back a lot. I give Amicus a shove, the wolf stumbling more than he probably would have if he wasn't covering up his junk. Whoa, hey! With that, I wade out into the shallows, the water quickly coming up to my shoulders. I stick to the shore, treading water as I watch Amicus splash around, doing a sort of lunging swim that reminds me of the butterfly stroke, just a lot more clumsy. After a few minutes, he swims up next to me. You doing all right? I'm still unsure of you being out in the water. Hey, don't start. I know what I'm doing. All right. But even experienced swimmers can have accidents, so let me know if you need help or anything. Amicus stands right in front of me, his fur plastered tightly against his chest. I will. The wolf shields his eyes from the sun with a paw as he looks around. Anyway, do you want to have a race around the island? We can stay in the shallows. I actually used to do it with Cass all the time as a pup. I look around the small island, deciding that the distance is short enough that I can manage it. All right, sure. All right, Marco, but be warned. I won't go easy on you just because you're a primate. I swim past Amicus. Go! What? Hey! I hear the wolf splashing noisily behind me as he tries to catch up. I do fairly well for the first half of our little race, managing to get around the backside of the island without the wolf catching up to me. I notice that this part of the island is covered in dense trees and vegetation, with no beach to speak of. It's at this point that Amicus overtakes me with his big, lunging strokes, breathing hard each time he comes up. I realize how hard he's trying, and I wonder if he's actually afraid of losing. It's clear that there's a competitive edge to him, and I guess that makes sense if he's so determined to beat Cassius to the throne. As we come to the final bend, I fall further behind, quickly losing stamina as the muscles burn in my arms and legs. Amicus seems to notice and slows down a bit towards the end, allowing me to catch up some before he reaches the same spot we'd started at. For a moment, we both just gasp for breath in the shallows, though Amicus grins. I win. I roll my eyes and wait until I can breathe evenly again. Whatever. You've got way more muscle than I do. That isn't really an advantage. Amicus still breathes heavily, and I wonder how much effort he actually put into beating me. Besides, I've got all this fur weighing me down and you don't. You know, competitive swimmers actually shave their fur down near their skin. That makes me wonder what a shaved wolf would look like. Guess I just have bad stamina. Actually, you did a lot better than I thought you would. Had me worried for the first few minutes. What do you call that swimming style? I don't know. I think it's just called freestyle. Amicus moves closer, his breathing finally under control. Could you teach me? To swim? Looks like you've already got that down. I mean your style of swimming. You beat me, didn't you? Why would you want to learn my style? I say that, but I think I know what Amicus is getting at. He has a very clumsy way of swimming, sort of like he's fighting the water itself. Amicus harumphs, blowing some droplets of water from his nose. It looked effective. I'd just like to try it if you're willing to show me. I smile. All right. For the next hour, I show the wolf how to swim freestyle. At the beginning, it kind of feels like I'm teaching a toddler how to swim. The first few tries end up with him thrashing around in the water like he's about to drown, showering me with lake water until I have to reach out and grab him to make him stop. I decide to start with the arms first, standing in the shallows and showing him how I put one arm ahead of the other in a sort of rhythm. Again, I have to stand close to the naked wolf, grabbing his big furry arms and showing him how to move them. Once he has that down, he quickly learns how to add his feet into the mix, and pretty soon, he's swimming back and forth, picking up speed to the point that I'd have no hope of keeping up with him. I realized then that Amicus is a very fast learner.
Ha ha! This is so much better! Do you know any other styles?
Amicus paddles happily around me. Well, I guess back floating? But no, not really. I'm not a professional swimmer. Amicus stands, water running down his furry body.
Want to race again?
He grins at me. I laugh. No! I'm exhausted after teaching you all of that.
Oh, don't be such a pup. Or are you afraid of losing again?
Amicus winks to lighten his words. I think about flicking him on the nose like he's a misbehaving dog, but I resist the urge. No, I'm tired and I'm hungry, and if I stay out any longer, I'm probably going to get a sunburn. Reminding Amicus that there's food on the beach seems to change his mind, and he follows me into the shallows.
Oh, that's right. You have no fur. Sometimes I get burned around my nose if I stay out too long. Are you all right?
I feel Amicus rub a paw over my shoulders, and I shiver. Well, we'll know by tonight, but I feel all right. As we trudge onto the beach, I see Alex curled up on a blanket, his fur bright and shiny under the sun. Judging by the plates around him, he's already eaten. Amicus chuckles.
Such a feline. Anyway, you'd better keep your eyes off of me. I want the fur to dry before I put my undergarments back on, so I'm going to stop covering up for you.
Automatically, my eyes start wandering towards the wolf, before snapping back to look straight ahead. But then I start to think. I am going to be here for a while as far as I know. Maybe I should get used to the whole nudity thing now. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, and if this is a normal thing for the wolves, then why not get used to it? So I look. Amicus grunts in surprise when he sees me not bothering to avoid looking his way.
What? Human?
Amicus's paws snap to cover his crotch again. I smirk. What? I might as well get used to it if this is normal around here, right? Though I gotta say, you're acting like it isn't. Amicus pauses, then pulls his paws away from his crotch, his face flushed.
You just surprised me, is all. Anyway.
Amicus walks stiffly up the beach, past the sleeping Alex, while I try to keep up. It's kind of satisfying to see how embarrassed he is, considering how much he'd been teasing me about it. And honestly, now that I've seen it, it really isn't a big deal at all. The wolf's cock and balls are just like a human's. Sure, maybe with a little more fur on the balls and a darker shade on the cock, but still similar. We reach the sightseer, and I see that Alex has laid out the food in a neat little line of plates. Though some of the pastries look a bit squashed, everything seems to have survived the emergency dumping that they suffered. Amicus grabs a few large plates of quiches and what looks like fruit pastries. Meanwhile, I grab a folded blanket, the bottle of wine for Amicus, and a smaller bottle of the vegetable-tasting juice I'd had yesterday for myself. We make our way over to the shade of the trees before I roll out the blanket and Amicus starts to tie his underwear back on. Finally, he sits down with a huff before reaching out for the wine.
You sure you don't want any?
He asks before guzzling some of it down. Maybe at dinner or something? But I'd rather not get buzzed right now.
Oh, really? I'd have to drink quite a bit more than this bottle to become inebriated.
Guess that explains how he can drink so much of it for every meal. Well, you are a lot bigger. Anyway, this stuff is great. I easily pull out the cork on my own bottle before drinking down the ice-cold juice. Amicus pulls a face.
Ugh, Verde. That stuff tastes awful. Wine is so much better.
Amicus immediately goes for the fruit pastries, shoving 2 in his mouth at the same time. Maybe you just prefer sweet things. And slow down. Don't you take time to enjoy your food? Amicus frowns at me with his mouth full.
I do enjoy it. That's why I eat it fast.
I smile and go after one of the quiches instead. We eat in silence for a few minutes. Then I remember what Kato had said earlier. When do you need to be at that thing Kato was talking about?
Combat practice? We've got at least an hour yet.
And what does that involve?
Oh, just striking and grapples. I'm just glad Cass isn't here to join us. I hate sparring him.
Really? You told me last night that he can't even compete with you.
That's exactly why. He has a condition where his bones are less dense than what is normal. Makes them easy to break. Because of this, I'm more of a training dummy for him than anything. Basically, he just uses it as an excuse to punch me in the stomach. There isn't much I can do to retaliate that won't seriously injure him. So I prefer training with Kato.
Didn't you tell Cassius you'd punch him yesterday? Amicus laughs.
I did, didn't I? Well, that's why he was so offended. But now he knows not to bother you. I've learned to be gentle with him since we were pups, but my limits can only be pushed so far. Especially now that I have you.
You said you used to get along with him when you were pups?
Yes, but I think that had more to do with him admiring me when we were younger. He used to look up to me, which was preferable to how he is now.
What happened? Amicus shrugs.
We grew older, then Mother died, and he was always very close to her. They shared a lot in common, including their disease.
Amicus pokes around at the pastries before picking one up that looks to be filled with a red fruit.
Then I suppose we've always been different philosophically, which would be fine if you weren't trying to take the throne from me.
So, if you were next in line for the throne, how could Cassius just challenge you for it? Is that how it's supposed to work?
No, not really. Kato is the one who decided to do things this way, which he can because he's the acting emperor. Cassius has been building a following amongst the wolves for the past several years.
Amicus shakes his head.
I thought he was simply trying to solidify his chances of becoming my advisor. But his speeches and writings were so different from my father's. I did realize he was cultivating a certain persona for the emperorship eventually, but I never thought Kato would buy into it just because of Cassius's popularity. But he did. And here we are.
Amicus shoos away a worryingly large fly that lands near the plate.
I thought I'd have more time anyway. A lot more time. But Father's passing was sudden, so I'm left with what I have now.
What happened to him? if you don't mind me asking.
To Father. His ship crashed while landing in Adastra City about 5 months ago. It's a rare thing to happen, but it does happen.
I'm sorry.
Well, he's with the parents now, so I'll see him again. But he should have had so much more time left. Just like Mother.
How old was he?
157.
I blink. He was 157?
Yes.
Years?
Yes?
Amicus looks at me, confused. How long do you people live?
It varies, obviously. But about 250 to 300 years.
Wow.
How long do your people live?
Amicus looks slightly apprehensive. I don't know. 80? 100 if we're lucky.
Oh.
Amicus's ears fall.
That's so short.
Compared to you guys, yeah.
Wait, how old are you?
20. How old are you? Amicus is still frowning.
23?
That gives me some pause, trying to work out how much that would be in a human lifespan. Wait, so are you an adult? Or... Amicus seems to recover.
Well, adulthood varies among species and cultures, obviously. But legal adulthood is 20. So yes, I'm considered an adult.
Huh. That's about the same as humans.
But the difference is that you die a lot sooner.
That concerned look again. I shrug. I've grown up with the idea, so it's not all that shocking to me. Amicus seems to be thinking.
Well, maybe we can do something about it. I don't like the idea of you being through a fourth of your life when you've only just reached adulthood.
I frown. Well, what are you gonna do about it?
We aren't able to live so long naturally. We take supplements and medication that slows the aging process. Maybe we could consider some for you.
It's an interesting thought, but I don't like the idea of being a guinea pig for wolvish medication. Maybe. But let's just figure out this whole Emperor thing first.
All right.
Amicus picks at his claws for a while, and it looks like he wants to say something. But he doesn't, and just stays quiet. Finally, just as I'm about to ask him what's wrong, he looks over at the sleeping Alex.
I'll be right back.
And with that, the wolf suddenly gets up and jogs over to the cat. I can't help but feel the conversation was left unfinished, but then I see Amicus get down on his paws and knees, as if sneaking up on Alex. I frown and watch as the wolf gets closer, his paw reaching out for Alex's earring. I guess the wolf wasn't being very quiet, because Alex suddenly rolls over and squeals as the wolf leaps at him.
Amicus, no! No, this is my best one! Don't mess it up!
I sigh and get up, a little reluctant to leave the shade as I make my way over to the pair. Alex is rolled into a little ball, clutching at his ear as he tries to hide the grapes.
Don't you dare! Do you want to tear my ear off?
I'm being gentle. If you'd stop trying to fight it, it would make this easier.
No!
Alexios tries to roll away, then spots me.
Marco, help!
I sigh and watch for a bit, before deciding to save the poor cat. I look for an opening, then pounce on Amicus's back, wrapping my arms around his neck and my legs around his waist, trying to throw him off balance.
Oh ho ho! Not so fragile now, are we?
Amicus swings me back and forth, as if he's trying to throw me off, but not really putting any effort into it. Meanwhile, Alex scrambles out from under the wolf before turning and giving him a shove.
Ah!
Amicus starts to topple backwards, and for a moment I think I'm about to get crushed between this 300-pound wolf and the sand. But Amicus turns as we fall, and we end up laying sideways on the beach. Alex stands to the side, quickly dusting himself off before adjusting his earring, frowning.
You know, I might as well just stop wearing this. There's no point if half of it is plucked by the day's end.
Amicus just lays there and laughs. His laughter is infectious, so I laugh too.
They're too good, Alex. Maybe you should start wearing inedible berries instead.
Alex huffs as he looks down his nose at us.
It's a cultural staple of my people. And honestly, what you're doing is rather disrespectful, especially as a prospective emperor.
Amicus waves his paw dismissively, laying flat out on his back next to me, his arm flopping over my head.
Pwah, you're a friend. Obviously, I wouldn't do it to an actual ambassador.
I am an actual ambassador, Amicus.
Yes, but a friend ambassador.
Alex sighs.
Anyway, thank you, Marco. You should obey your master, yes, but it is also important to keep your master in check when he oversteps his bounds.
Hey, don't encourage insubordination, Alex.
Amicus's big paw resting above my head comes down to ruffle my hair. I realize, for the first time since I was abducted, that I'm at ease. Happy even. Then Alex looks at the sky.
Amicus, what time is it?
Amicus suddenly sits up with a grunt, also looking towards the sun.
I don't know. Is it close to the 11th hour?
I was asleep, so I'm not sure. I'd ask Calm, but we're outside his boundaries.
Amicus sits for a moment, then sighs.
Well, I suppose we should be off, just in case.
We gather up the food and blankets. Don't you guys have portable clocks or something? Amicus shrugs.
We do, but usually I can just ask Calm.
The wolf taps his ear.
But like Alex said, his signal doesn't reach the island.
Amicus is starting to look a little nervous, so we pick up the pace and pack ourselves into the sightseer, a bit more crowded now with Amicus inside. When we're halfway to the shore, Amicus asks the time, then groans.
Damn it. 11:30 hour.
Welcome to the after reading. I'll admit, I wasn't really looking forward to this one when I realized it was a beach episode. But lucky for all of us, this episode wasn't just an obligatory filler episode to pad the runtime. It also gave us a lot of insight into Amicus's character. It starts with the misunderstanding that all primates can't swim. I actually had to look this one up, and according to bonobos.org, this inability to swim is limited to great apes, which includes humans, and only some monkeys. But as a fun aside, while wild apes tend to avoid water, there have been 2 separate cases recorded where captive apes taught themselves how to swim. So that's neat. I'll link the page in the description below if anyone wants to read it for themselves. So anyway, Amicus plucks Marco from the water because he knows great apes can't swim. This at first seems like a basic heroic thing Amicus would do, but we quickly discover another layer to this action. You see, Amicus doesn't know Marco very well yet, and likely influenced by Alex's shrieking, was worried Marco might have intentionally tried to drown himself. He knows Marco isn't happy with the situation he's in, and he's well aware that he's the reason for that. Layered on top of this is the conversation from the night before, where Amicus was so happy that he finally had someone other than Com to talk to. Based on what we know of Amicus's character so far, I think it's likely that he's also feeling guilty for feeling happy at Marco's expense. How absolutely terrible would that have been if Amicus's fears had come true? A pointless tragedy and a lot of personal guilt. So Amicus is really doing his absolute best to ensure Marco's quality of life and safety while he's here. Eventually, though, we do get to have some fun on this beach trip and learn some new stuff about our himbo wolf prince. First, we get to fully see Amicus's competitive nature on full display during his race with Marco, something we just caught glimpses of during the wolf's interactions with Cassius. Second, Amicus may already know how to swim, but when he sees how much more efficient Marco's style of swimming is, he's eager to have Marco teach it to him. Then, when these two things are put together, they reinforce a third thing we learned from last episode. Amicus is not so self-assured or prideful to admit when he could do better. And he doesn't just admit it, he actually does something about it and learns a new skill from the very person he was trying to coddle a couple hours earlier, which automatically makes him a more well-adapted person than I am. We also get what I feel is another turning point for their relationship on Marco's end. After we get to see the two of them having some friendly beach banter while playfully shoving one another like they're Shrek and Fiona in the first movie, when asking if Marco's skin is okay, Amicus runs his paw over Marco's shoulders, and Marco shivers. And he ain't cold or sunburned either. At some point, we all know what it's like to be touched by someone we're crushing on, so I really like the inclusion of this small yet understated detail. There was also an option present in this chapter to not look at Amicus's naked body, but seriously, who would pick that option? Certainly not me. So now Marco and I are on the same page. I also really like Amicus's explanation for why he threatened to hit his brother, despite his brother having a bone disease inherited from their late mother. Amicus tells Marco that his patience with his brother can only be stretched so far, especially, and most importantly, now that I have you. What do we think that means, I wonder? At this point, you can still read this situation as Amicus just being protective of Marco out of duty. But since it's obvious Amicus has some little feelings stirring around in that big ol' chest of his, this seems protective in a different sort of way. Oh, and speaking of Cassius, we learn about the cult of personality he's been developing, and how Amicus is surprised Cato has decided to break tradition by giving Cassius a shot at the throne. Could it be that Cato might actually agree with Cassius's conservative worldviews? Probably. So, what awaits Amicus now that he's late for his training with Cato? And what new challenges will await Marco while he pretends to be a caveman around some new characters? Find out in the next episode of Adastra. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a like, share it with fellow degenerates, and leave a comment for the almighty YouTube algorithm. Until next time, thanks for watching.